The stars had never seemed so quiet. Captain Park Do-yeon stood at the bridge of the Resolute, watching the endless black through the main viewport. His ship was 3 months into the deepest space mission humanity had ever attempted. They were alone out here, far from Earth, far from everything familiar, or so they thought. The alarm came without warning. Red lights flashed across every console. Lieutenant Kim Tae-woo jumped to his feet, his fingers flying over the tactical display. "Captain, we have contacts," Tae-woo said. His voice was calm but tight. "Multiple signatures. Large ones." Do-yeon walked to the display and looked at the readings. His stomach dropped. There were dozens of ships surrounding them. They had appeared from nowhere, as if the darkness itself had given birth to them. "How many?" Do-yeon asked. 47 vessels, all armed. They're forming a perimeter around us." Dr. Yoon Hannah rushed onto the bridge, her lab coat still on. She was the ship's xenobiologist and communications expert. Until now, her job had been mostly theoretical. There had never been aliens to communicate with. That had just changed. "They're hailing us," Hannah said, sliding into her station. "Universal frequency. They want to talk." Do-yeon nodded slowly. "Put it through." The main screen flickered. What appeared was not human. The being was tall, perhaps 7 feet, and its body seemed made of living crystal. Light moved through it like blood through veins. Its face, if it could be called that, had no mouth. But when it spoke, the words came directly into their minds. "You are the humans," the crystal being said. It was not a question. "You have entered Council space. I am Ambassador Velcris of the Valorian Empire. You will submit to protection protocols immediately." Do-yeon felt the crew tense around him. Submit. Not welcome. Not greetings. Submit. "I am Captain Park Do-yeon of Earth vessel the Resolute," he replied. "We are on a peaceful exploration mission. We didn't know this space was claimed." "Ignorance is not an excuse," Velcris said. "All space in the Orion Arm belongs to the Galactic Council. Your species was classified as primitive. You should not be here, but you are. So now you will follow our rules." Hannah pulled up information on her screen, working fast. She had been recording everything, analyzing the transmission. Now she turned to Do-yeon with worry in her eyes. "Captain," she whispered, "I've decoded their protection protocols. It's not protection. It's control. They want full genetic records of every human. They want 20% of our resources as tribute. And they want the right to conscript our people into their military." Do-yeon felt something cold settle in his chest. Not anger. Something deeper. Something that every human carried in their bones, passed down through generations of struggle and survival. He turned back to the screen. "Ambassador Velcris," he said, "I must decline your offer." The crystal being went still. The light inside it flickered strangely, as if confused. "Ah." "Decline," Velcris said. "You misunderstand. This is not an offer. This is how things are done. Every species submits to the Council. There are no exceptions." "There is now," Do-yeon said. Tae-woo looked at his captain with wide eyes. Hannah held her breath. The bridge crew sat frozen at their stations. Velcris made a sound that might have been laughter. It echoed in their minds like breaking glass. "You are primitive," the ambassador said. "Your species discovered fire only moments ago in the scale of the galaxy. You have no allies, no fleet, no power. The Council has ruled for 10,000 years. What makes you think you can refuse us?" Do-yeon stepped closer to the screen. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. "You want to know about humans?" he said. "We have spent our entire history fighting. Fighting nature. Fighting disease. Fighting each other. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times, but we're still here. We crawled out of the mud, reached for the stars, and built ships that crossed the void between worlds. We didn't do that by submitting to anyone." He paused. "We answered to ourselves. No one else." Velcris stared at him for a long moment. Then the ambassador's form shifted, growing brighter, more intense. "You are making a mistake," Velcris said. The Council does not tolerate defiance. We will give you one more chance. Submit now, or face the consequences. Doyen turned to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Kim, please escort our guest off the ship.
Iwu blinked.
Then a slow smile crossed his face. He pulled his sidearm and pointed it at the screen. Ambassador Taewoo said, "You heard the captain? Leave our vessel. Now." The crystal being made that breaking glass sound again. You threaten a council ambassador? With weapons? You truly are savages. Maybe, Doyen said, but we're savages who know how to fight. And we don't respond well to threats. Transmission cut off. Immediately, the alien ships began powering their weapons. Energy readings spiked across the board. They're going to fire, Taewoo reported. Doyen turned to his pilot. Jump to hyperspace. Now, but Captain, we haven't calculated a safe route. I don't care. Get us out of here. Pilot's hands moved. The Resolute's engines roared. Space twisted around them. And just as 47 alien warships opened fire, the human vessel vanished into the light of hyperspace. They emerged hours later, far from the alien fleet. Damaged but alive. Doyen sat in his chair, exhausted. Hannah approached him quietly. We should send a message to Earth, she said. They need to know what happened. They need to know what's out there. Doyen nodded. Send everything. The recordings, the protocols, all of it. Let them see what the galaxy thinks of us. The message reached Earth 3 weeks later. It spread across every network, every government, every home. People watched the Crystal Ambassador demand submission. They heard Captain Park Do-yeon refuse. And something happened that the Galactic Council had never seen in 10,000 years. Humanity got angry, not divided. Not afraid, angry. The World Assembly met within days. Representatives from every nation gathered. They argued about many things, as humans always did. But on one point they agreed completely. The vote was unanimous. No negotiations under threat. No submission. No surrender. Earth would stand alone if it had to. But it would stand, far away, on Nexus Prime. The Galactic Council received reports of humanity's response. The High Speakers read them with confusion. This was not how species behaved. Primitive races submitted. They had no choice. But humans were not behaving like a primitive race. For the first time in millennia, the Council did not know what to do next. And that uncertainty, that tiny crack in their ancient confidence, was only the beginning. 3 months passed after the incident with the Resolute. Earth had changed in that time. Factories worked day and night. Scientists shared secrets that nations had once guarded jealously. For the first time in human history, the whole planet moved with one purpose. They were preparing. Admiral Choi Soon-hae stood in the command center of Station Unity, Earth's largest orbital platform. She was 53 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She had spent her life defending her country. Now she defended her species. They're here, her aide reported. Long-range sensors confirm. 200 ships entering the solar system. Sun-hee nodded slowly. Inform Secretary Beak and activate all defense platforms. Silent mode. Cross Earth's orbit. Thousands of weapons platforms powered up quietly. They had been built in secret over the last 3 months, hidden among satellites and space stations. The Council thought humans were primitive. They were about to learn otherwise. Secretary Beak Ji-woo arrived at Station Unity within the hour. She was Earth's Minister of Interstellar Affairs, a position that had not existed for months ago. She was calm, composed, with a face that revealed nothing. Politicians and generals found her impossible to read. That was exactly why she had been chosen. What do we know about this fleet? Beak asked. 200 warships, Sun-hee replied. Much larger than what the Resolute encountered. They've sent their diplomatic corps. Heavily armed diplomatic corps. Beak almost smiled. Diplomacy with weapons. How charming. A young woman approached them, tablet in hand. Representative Han Yuna was only 28, the youngest person in Earth's diplomatic corps. She had been chosen to handle alien communications because she was brilliant with languages and unafraid of anything. "You're broadcasting," Una reported, "on all frequencies. They want us to hear this." Beak nodded. "Put it through." The message filled the command center. The speaker was a serpentine creature, long and scaled, with multiple eyes that glowed like hot coals. A Kethrani, according to their intelligence. "People of Earth," the Kethrani said, "I am High Diplomat Desser of the Galactic Council. We come with generous terms for your integration into the galactic community. Your previous encounter with Ambassador Velcris was unfortunate. We understand there may have been misunderstandings. We wish to speak with your leaders in person, as equals, to resolve this matter peacefully." The message ended. Silence filled the room. "As equals, son," he repeated. 200 warships is their idea of equality. "They think we're stupid," Una said quietly. "They think we'll be impressed by their fleet and grateful for their kindness." Beak Jiwoo walked to the communication console. She thought for a long moment. Then she pressed the transmit button. "High Diplomat Thesser," she said. "This is Secretary Beak Jiwoo of Earth. We have received your message. If you wish to discuss terms, you may send them in written form. No ships will enter our system. No delegates will land on our world. These conditions are not negotiable." She released the button. The response came quickly. The Tsar's serpentine form appeared on screen, all his eyes blinking in what might have been surprise. "Secretary Beak," the Tsar said, "surely you understand that proper diplomacy requires face-to-face meetings. We must speak in person. It is tradition. It is protocol." "Your traditions are not our traditions," Beak replied. "Your protocols are not our protocols. We did not ask you to come here. You came with warships to our home and called it diplomacy. We are not impressed." The Tsar's scales rippled with agitation. "You insult us. We traveled across the stars to offer you friendship, and you refuse even to meet with us. No species has ever treated the Council this way, and perhaps it was time someone did." The Kethrani diplomat hissed. "You do not understand your situation. The Council rules the galaxy. We have crushed rebellions from species far more advanced than yours. We offer you a place among us, and you spit in our faces." Admiral Choi Soon-hee stepped forward. Her voice was ice. "High Diplomat Thesser," she said, "you speak of crushing rebellions. You speak of power. Let me show you something." She gave a silent signal. Across Earth's orbit, the defense platforms decloaked. Thousands of them. Weapons arrays, missile batteries, energy cannons. They had been invisible moments before. Now they surrounded the planet like a shell of iron and fire. On the Council fleet, alarms screamed. Desert's eyes went wide. His scales turned pale. "This is impossible," he whispered. 3 months. "You've built this in 3 months?" "When humans are motivated," son, he said, "we work fast." Desser tried to recover his composure. "This is a bluff. These weapons cannot match Council technology. You are buying time, nothing more." Representative Han Yuna stepped to the console. She was smiling, but her eyes were cold. "I, Diplomat Desser," she said. "You came here with 200 ships? Our defense grid can destroy 400. Would you like a demonstration?" Silence. Vesser looked at his officers. They looked back with fear in their eyes. The readings from Earth's weapons were real. The power signatures were massive. This was not a bluff. "You reject our diplomacy entirely?" Desser asked. His voice had lost its confidence. "We reject your threats dressed as diplomacy," Beak Jiwoo replied. "We reject your demands hidden behind smiles. If you want to talk to us, truly talk, then send your proposals in writing. We will read them. We will consider them. And we will respond in our own time." She paused. "But if you fire a single shot at our world, we will destroy your fleet. And then we will come for your council. This is not a threat. It is a promise." The transmission ended. Visser stood on his bridge, surrounded by his officers. They waited for his command. He could order an attack. He could test whether humans were bluffing. But looking at those weapon readings, seeing those platforms aimed at his ships, he knew the truth. They were not bluffing. Prepare to withdraw, Thesser ordered quietly. Sir, an officer asked. We are leaving now. The Council fleet turned and retreated. 200 warships, the pride of the Galactic Council, fled from a species they had called primitive. On Station Unity, the humans watched them go. Admiral Choi Soon-hye allowed herself a small smile. That was satisfying, she said. Secretary Baek Ji-woo nodded. It was, but this is only the beginning. They'll be back. And next time, they won't come with diplomats.
House.
Then we'll be ready, Representative Han Yuna said, far away on Nexus Prime. The Galactic Council received the SARS report. The high speakers gathered in their ancient chamber, reading the words with growing disbelief. Humans had refused to meet. Humans had threatened a council fleet. Humans had weapons that should not exist. High Speaker Velion, oldest of the council, spoke the words that everyone was thinking. What are these creatures? No one had an answer, but Councillor Mavic, the pragmatic strategist, was already thinking. Humans were not behaving like primitives. They were behaving like predators, predators who had been hiding their strength. The question was, why? What did they really want? Mavic suspected the answer would change everything the Council thought they knew. Nexus Prime was the heart of the Galactic Council. A station the size of a small moon, it hung in the void between stars, home to millions of beings from thousands of species. Here, the Council had ruled for 10,000 years. Here, the laws of the galaxy were made, and here, the high speakers gathered to discuss the human problem. The chamber was vast, designed to hold representatives from every major species. Today, only the inner circle was present. High Speaker Varelian floated at the center, his ancient body kept alive by machines older than most civilizations. Around him sat the other high speakers and senior counselors. Counselor Mavic stood before them, presenting his findings. We have underestimated the humans, he said bluntly. Badly. Explain, Varelian commanded. Mavic activated a holographic display. It showed Earth, spinning slowly in space. 340 years ago, by their calendar, humans could not fly. They traveled on the surface of their world using animals and primitive machines. They had no computers, no advanced medicine. They burned dead plants for energy. He changed the image. Now it showed human ships, human stations, human weapons. Today, they have faster-than-light travel, orbital defense grids, energy weapons that match our middle-tier technology. They achieved in 3 centuries what takes most species 5,000 years. Silence filled the chamber. Impossible, one counselor said. They must have found ancient technology, perhaps remnants from the precursors? We investigated that theory, Mavic replied. There is no evidence. Their technology is different from ours, different from everyone's. They built it themselves, from nothing, through trial and error and sheer determination. High Speaker Velian's mechanical body hummed. He asked, how can primitives advance so quickly? Because they are not like us, Mavic said. Their history is different. Where most species develop slowly, peacefully, over millennia, humans have spent their entire existence fighting. Fighting their environment, fighting diseases, fighting each other. They nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. Wars, plagues, famines. They should have died out long ago. He paused. But they didn't. Each catastrophe made them stronger. Each near extinction forced them to adapt. They don't innovate for comfort. They innovate to survive. And they do it faster than anyone we've ever seen. Relian was quiet for a long moment. You respect them, he observed. I fear them, Mavic corrected. There is a difference. The chamber doors opened. A human walked in. Every counselor turned to look. Mavic's hand moved toward his weapon before he stopped himself. The human was a woman. Small by human standards, dressed in simple clothes. Her name was No Yunji, and she was a historian. Earth had sent her to Nexus Prime as an unofficial observer. The Council had allowed it, thinking she would be overwhelmed and intimidated by their power. They had been wrong. Yunji walked calmly to the center of the chamber, showing no fear. She had been listening from outside. "May I speak?" she asked. Vrelian considered her. "You are a guest here. You have no standing to address this council." "Then consider this informal education," Yunji said. "You've been studying humans for weeks, reading our data, analyzing our history. But you still don't understand us. Perhaps I can help." Mavic watched her carefully. "Speak, then." Yunji looked around the chamber at all these ancient, powerful beings. "You see our refusal as defiance," she said. "You think we are arrogant? Foolish? Suicidal even? A tiny species challenging a galactic power. It makes no sense to you." She began to walk slowly, her footsteps echoing. "But you see defiance because you don't understand our history. We don't refuse you because we're stupid. We refuse you because we've learned through thousands of years of pain. What happens when we don't?" She stopped, facing Vrelian directly. "Do you know what happened to our people when we trusted strangers who came with gifts and promises? They took our lands. They enslaved our children. They erased our cultures and called it civilization. Every time we believed someone who said they only wanted to help, we suffered for it." Her voice was quiet but steady. "Now we are careful. When someone comes to our door with weapons and calls it diplomacy, we don't see friendship. We see all the betrayals we've survived. We see every ancestor who died because they trusted too easily." She turned to address the whole council. "It came to us with warships. You demanded genetic records and resource tributes. You called it protection. But we've heard, those words before. Protect, integrate, civilize. They always mean the same thing. Surrender, obey, disappear." Counselor Mavic leaned forward. "Then what do you want?" he asked. "If not council membership, then what?" Yunji smiled slightly. "We want to be left alone. We want to build our own future, make our own mistakes, find our own way. We're not interested in ruling the galaxy. We don't want your power or your territory. We just want the right to exist on our own terms." "The council does not work that way," Vrelian said. "Every species must be integrated. It maintains order. It prevents conflicts." "It maintains your order," Yunji corrected. "It prevents conflicts you don't like. But order built on forced submission isn't peace. It's control." She walked back toward the door. "You offered us a seat at your table. We declined. You offered us reduced tributes. We declined. Now you're discussing force. But that won't work either." She stopped at the doorway and turned back. "You see, there's something you still don't understand about humans. We don't fight because we think we'll win. We fight because we refuse to lose without trying. Every battle in our history, no matter how hopeless, someone stood and fought. We may be small. We may be primitive. But we are stubborn beyond anything you have ever encountered." She bowed slightly. "My government has authorized me to deliver one final message. You can try to conquer us. You can bring all your fleets and all your power. Maybe you'll even succeed. But the cost will be higher than anything you've paid before. And we will make sure the galaxy knows what you did. Every species you've conquered will see that the Great Council can be hurt. They'll see that resistance is possible." She paused. "Is it worth it? Just to force us to obey?" She left. The chamber was silent for a very long time. Finally, Vrelian spoke. "Prepare the war fleets. We will show these humans what happens to those who defy the council." Counselor Mavic closed his eyes. He had hoped for wisdom. He had found only pride. The council had ruled for 10,000 years by crushing all who opposed them. It was the only way they knew. But as Mavic watched the preparations begin, he felt something he had not felt in centuries. Doubt the human woman had not been afraid. She had walked into the heart of their power and spoken truth without flinching. Her people were the same. They saw the council's might and felt no awe. That was terrifying. Because if humans didn't fear the council, then perhaps the council had finally found something it should fear. The war fleets assembled. Thousands of ships from dozens of species, all bound by ancient treaties to serve the council's will. It was the largest armada in 500 years, and it was heading toward Earth. But Mavic remembered the historian's words. We will make you pay. We will make sure everyone sees. He wondered if the council truly understood what it was walking into. He suspected they did not. The council armada was magnificent. 10,000 warships from across the galaxy, painted in the colors of 100 species, all united under the council banner. Energy weapons that could crack planets, shields that could withstand stars. It was a force that had crushed rebellions for millennia. High Admiral Zorvax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. He was a Kravith, 8 feet tall with armored skin and 6 arms, each capable of operating different systems simultaneously. He had fought in 70 wars. He had never lost. Status report, he ordered. All ships in formation, High Admiral. We will reach the human border in 6 hours. Zorvax nodded. This would be easy. The humans had perhaps 2,000 ships, if intelligence was correct. Primitive vessels with inferior weapons. They had embarrassed the Tsar's diplomatic fleet, but that was different. A real war fleet would crush them in hours. He almost felt sorry for them, almost on the human side of the border. Fleet Admiral Shin Minho watched the approaching armada through sensor displays. His command ship, the Unconquered, floated at the center of humanity's defensive line. Around him were 1,500 warships. Everything Earth could spare. It wasn't enough. Not by numbers, not by conventional wisdom, but humans had never been conventional. All ships report ready, his aide said. Mish turned to look at his captains through the communication network. He saw Captain Park Do-yoon now commanding the flagship Defiance. He saw Admiral Choi Soon-hai coordinating orbital defenses from Station Unity. He saw thousands of faces, all looking to him for guidance. I won't lie to you, Minho said. They outnumber us. Their ships are larger. Their weapons are proven across centuries. By every measure that matters, we should lose this battle. He paused. But I don't believe in those measures. I believe in us. I believe in humans. We don't fight because the odds are good. We fight because giving up isn't in our blood. Our ancestors crossed oceans in wooden boats. They climbed mountains that should have killed them. They went to space in machines held together by faith and courage. His voice grew stronger. The council thinks we're primitives. They think we'll scatter when we see their power. They're wrong. Today, we show them what humans do when their home is threatened. Today, we make them understand that Earth is not for the taking. He raised his fist. For Earth. For humanity. No retreat. Across the fleet, 1,500 ships repeated the words, no retreat. 6 hours later, the Council Armada arrived. Zorvax looked at the human fleet and felt contempt. 1,500 ships. Arranged in a defensive formation, they weren't even trying to run. Open a channel, he ordered. The communication connected. Admiral Shin Min-ho appeared on screen. Human Commander Zorvax said, I am High Admiral Zorvax of the Galactic Council. Your species has defied Council authority. You have insulted our diplomats and threatened our representatives. These crimes demand punishment. He leaned forward. However, the Council is merciful. Surrender now, and we will spare your fleet. Your soldiers will be prisoners, not corpses. Your world will be occupied, not destroyed. This is my only offer. Minno's face showed nothing. Hi, Admiral Zorvax, he said. This is human space. Leave now, or don't leave at all. Zorvax blinked. He had expected fear, negotiation, perhaps defiance mixed with desperation. He had not expected complete calm. You refuse? He asked. I refuse. Then you choose death. Minho smiled slightly. We'll see. The communication ended. Zorvax laughed. He actually laughed. These humans were insane. All ships, he ordered. Attack. 10,000 warships opened fire. The battle began. The first wave of council weapons screamed toward the human fleet. Thousands of energy bolts, each powerful enough to vaporize a city. The humans should have died in that instant. But something strange happened. The human ships moved, not away from the attack, but into it. They twisted and rolled through the barrage with impossible precision. Weapons that should have hit passed through empty space, and then the humans fired back. Zorvax watched in confusion as his front line ships exploded. 520. The human weapons weren't stronger than his, but they were faster, more accurate. They seemed to know where his ships would be before they got there. What is happening? He demanded. Unknown, High Admiral. Their targeting systems are adapting to our movements. They're predicting our evasion patterns. That's impossible. But it was happening. On the Defiance, Captain Park Do-yeon commanded his ship through the chaos. Around him, the battle raged, but he felt calm. The Defiance's AI was linked to every ship in the fleet, sharing data in real time, learning from every enemy shot, adjusting strategies millions of times per second. It was called adaptive warfare, humanity's secret weapon. They couldn't match the Council's size or experience, so they had built something different. A system that learned and evolved during battle, that grew smarter with every passing moment. Falcon Squadron. Begin your run, Do-yeon ordered. Across the battlefield. Pilot Officer Lee Sora led 50 fighters toward the Council command ships. She was 24 years old, the youngest squadron commander in the fleet, and absolutely fearless. Falcons, follow my lead, she said. Tight formation. We punched through their screens and hit their communications relay. That's suicide, her wingman said. Then let's make it memorable. The Falcons dove into the enemy formation. Council fighters moved to intercept, but Sora's pilots were faster, more agile, dancing through defensive fire like ghosts. They lost ships. Good pilots, friends, but they didn't stop so raw, saw the relay ahead. A massive structure surrounded by guard ships. The Council's command network ran through it. Destroy the relay, and 10,000 ships would lose coordination. All weapons, Sora ordered. Fire everything. 17 minutes after the first shot, the relay exploded. The effect was immediate. Council ships that had been moving in perfect formation suddenly stumbled. Commands weren't reaching them. Captains who had never made independent decisions found themselves alone, confused, afraid, and the humans pressed the attack. Admiral Shin Minho watched the enemy fleet begin to crumble. Press forward, he ordered. All ships advance. Don't give them time to reorganize. The human fleet surged forward. Ships that should have been outmatched were suddenly winning. The adaptive systems had analyzed hours of Council tactics and found every weakness. Human weapons hit with terrible precision, targeting engines, weapons, bridges. Captain Park Do-yeon led the Defiance through the enemy center. His ship took damage, but it kept fighting. Around him, human vessels were doing the same. They were wounded, bleeding, dying, but they didn't retreat. They never retreated on the eternal judgment. High Admiral Zorvax watched his armada falling apart. 4,000 ships destroyed or disabled. His remaining captains were panicking, issuing contradictory orders, fleeing in all directions. This cannot be happening, he said, but it was an aide approached him. High Admiral, we must retreat. The fleet is lost. Zorvax wanted to refuse. He had never retreated. In 70 wars, he had never known defeat. But looking at the destruction around him, he understood the truth. The humans had won. All ships, he said quietly, fall back. Retreat to Council space. What remained of the Council armada fled. 6 hours after they had arrived with 10,000 ships, they left with barely 6,000, and many of those were crippled, on the unconquered. Admiral Shin Minho stood in silence as he watched them go. The bridge crew waited for his orders. Dr. Yoon Hannah, who had been coordinating communications throughout the battle, stepped to his side. We should say something, she said. The galaxy is watching. They need to hear from us. Minho nodded. He opened a channel to all frequencies, knowing every species in the region would receive it. People of the galaxy, he said. I am Admiral Shin Minho of Earth. Today, the Galactic Council attacked us with 10,000 ships. They expected easy victory. They expected us to surrender. He paused. They were wrong. He looked at the wreckage floating in space. Council ships and human ships tangled together in death. We did not want this war. We asked only to be left in peace. The Council refused. They came to our home with weapons and demanded we submit. So we fought, and we won. His voice hardened. Let this be a message to the galaxy. We are not primitives. We are not prey. We are humanity. And anyone who threatens our home will learn what that means. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, beings of every species watched in disbelief. The Council had been defeated. The humans had won. Everything was about to change. 1 year had passed since the Battle of the Line. The galaxy was not the same. The Galactic Council still existed, but it was weakened, fractured. 12 species had withdrawn from membership, declaring their independence for the first time in centuries. Others were reconsidering their loyalty. The defeat at human hands had shattered something that could not be repaired with treaties or threats. It had shattered the myth of Council invincibility on Earth. Life had returned to something like normal. The war had never reached the planet. Human ships patrolled the borders, and the defense grid remained active, but people lived their lives without fear. Shops opened. Children went to school. Farmers grew their crops, but everything had changed beneath the surface. President Kong Jiang stood in her office. Looking out at the lights of Seoul, she was 61 years old. Elected after the war, chosen to lead humanity into this new age. Her hair was silver now, and her face showed the weight of responsibility. But her eyes were still sharp, still full of fire. "They've agreed to talk," her aide reported. "The Council has accepted our invitation." Jiang nodded slowly. "It took them a year. I suppose pride heals slowly." The aide smiled. "For some species, pride is all they have." Jiang turned from the window. "Prepare the conference chamber, and contact Ambassador No. She'll want to be there." In space, Admiral Shin Minho watched the patrol reports from his command station. The human defense perimeter extended far beyond Earth now, protecting colonies on 3 worlds and research stations on a dozen more. A year ago, humanity had been confined to 1 planet. Now they were spreading across the stars. Captain Park Do-yen approached him, datapad in hand. "Admiral, we've received another request. The Velmorians want to establish trade relations." "That's the 4th species this month," Minho observed. 6th, actually. Word is spreading. Species that were afraid of the Council are starting to see alternatives. Minho sighed. "We never wanted to become a power. We just wanted to be left alone." "Sometimes you don't get to choose," Do-yen said. "When you prove something, people notice. They start hoping. And hope is dangerous for tyrants." The Council chamber on Nexus Prime felt different now. Smaller, somehow. Less grand. Many seats were empty, their occupants having left the Alliance. Those who remained watched with uncertainty as the human delegation arrived. No Yunji walked at the front. She was no longer an unofficial observer. She was Earth's official ambassador to the galaxy. Chosen for the same calm courage she had shown a year before when she lectured the Council in this very room. Behind her came representatives from Earth's government, military and scientific communities. They walked without fear, without arrogance. Just quiet confidence. High Speaker Velian awaited them. His mechanical body was older now, the lights dimmer. Defeat had aged him in ways machines could not repair. "Ambassador No," he said. "Welcome to Nexus Prime." "Thank you, High Speaker. Though I believe you once told me I had no standing to speak here." Verilian made a sound that might have been a sigh. "Times change. They do." The holographic display activated. President Kung Jiang appeared life-sized, standing as if she were present in the chamber. Her image addressed the Council directly. "High Speakers and Counselors of the Galactic Council," she said. "1 year ago, your armada came to our border with 10,000 ships. You demanded our submission. We refused, and we defeated your fleet." She paused, letting the words settle. "Many expected us to follow up our victory with conquest, to push into Council space, to punish you as you intended to punish us, but we did not do that. We defended our borders and waited." Counselor Mavic leaned forward. He had survived the political chaos after the defeat, perhaps because he had warned against it. Now he watched the human president with careful attention. Why? He asked. You could have pressed your advantage. You could have fractured the council completely. Smiled slightly. Because that is not who we are. We didn't fight you because we wanted power. We fought because you gave us no choice. The moment you stopped attacking, we stopped fighting. She clasped her hands before her. You see, Counselor, there is something about humans you never understood. We are not driven by expansion or domination. We don't dream of ruling others. We dream of building things, homes, families, futures. We fight when we must. It's harder than anyone expects, but we don't love it. We love peace. We love creation. We love the simple joy of living without fear. Vrelian spoke. Then what do you want from us? Why call this meeting? Because the galaxy is changing, Jiang said. Species that feared you for millennia are losing that fear. They see that defiance is possible. Some will seek independence. Others will seek war. The old order is dying whether we wish it or not. She looked at each council member in turn. We can let that change happen in blood and chaos. Or we can shape it together. Not as masters and servants. Not as conquerors and conquered. But as equals, Vrelian said. The council has never dealt with anyone as equals. Then perhaps it's time to learn, Ambassador, No Yunji said. Hi, Speaker. Your empire was built on submission. You thought that was strength? But real strength comes from willing partnership. From species that choose to work together not because they're forced, but because they see mutual benefit. She gestured to her colleagues. Humanity is offering what you never offered anyone. True treaties. Real cooperation. No tributes. No genetic cataloging. No conscription. Just honest dealing between powers that respect each other. Counselor Mavic stood. All eyes turned to him. Hi, Speakers, he said. A year ago, I warned that humans were dangerous. I was right, but not in the way I expected. They are dangerous because they represent something the Council cannot fight. An idea. The idea that the old ways don't have to continue. That submission is not the only path. He looked at the human delegation. We can crush ideas with force for a time, but they always return. The humans have planted a seed in the galaxy. It will grow whether we accept these terms or not. The only question is whether we grow with it or are buried by it. Vrelian was silent for a long time. You ask us to abandon 10,000 years of tradition, he finally said. No, President Kong replied. We ask you to add to it. Keep what works. Change what doesn't. The galaxy doesn't need the Council to disappear. It needs the Council to become something better. The vote took 3 days. It was close. Many council members could not accept the change. But in the end, enough of them understood what Mavic had said. The old ways were dying regardless. Better to ride the wave than drown beneath it. The first true equal treaty in council history was signed in the chamber, where humans had once been dismissed as primitives. On the observation deck of the Defiance, Admiral Shin Minho and Captain Park Do-yan watched the stars together. The signing ceremony was over. The delegates had returned to their worlds. The galaxy was beginning a new chapter. You think it will last? Do-yan asked. The peace? Minho considered. Maybe, maybe not. Humans have signed plenty of treaties that fell apart eventually. But that's not really the point. What is the point? Minho smiled. The point is that we tried. We showed the galaxy something different. We proved that you don't have to conquer to be strong. That you don't have to dominate to matter. Maybe it works. Maybe it fails. But we gave them hope. Do-yan nodded slowly. I never thought I'd see the day. The council asking us for terms, treating us as equals. A year ago, they called us primitives. Oh, a year ago they were wrong. They stood in comfortable silence watching the lights of distant suns. Do you think they'll ever really understand us? Do-yan asked. Minho thought about the question. Humans were strange creatures, he knew, capable of terrible violence and boundless kindness. They could destroy worlds or save them, often in the same generation. They fought each other constantly, yet united in moments of crisis. They were chaos and order, war and peace, all wrapped in the same restless spirit. No, the galaxy would probably never understand them. No, Minho said finally, but they'll respect us, and that's enough. Somewhere in the vast darkness, a ship with human markings passed a ship with council colors. Neither fired. Neither threatened. They simply continued on their separate paths to travelers in the endless night. It was a small moment, but it was a beginning, and for humans, beginnings were always the most important part of any story.